Hey Watch fam, I hope you're all very, very well. I thought I'd get a video out today. It's the weekend. I've got a bit of time before the little one's ready, post-nap, and I need to take her out. What am I wearing today? Of course I'm wearing the Omega Seamaster 300M still. Is it the Omega Seamaster Professional? I don't know how you call it. Anyway, it's the Omega Seamaster 300 dive watch, the one that I recently got about, 5 days ago, 6 days ago. I've been wearing it non-stop pretty much. My SD4K has been locked up and not used at all. Anyway guys, what I wanted to cover today, I had an interesting question asked by the viewer in the Omega video. And the question was around, why do you buy used? Have you always bought used? Are you trying to be frugal? Are you trying to be smart with your money, etc.? Are you trying not to lose too much money, etc., etc., etc.? I just thought it was a really good question because you can actually do a whole video about that question. By the way, I have just bought a new microphone. Some of you will notice it here. I'm curious how this thing is going to sound because I haven't synchronized it or played around at all. I just thought I'd do a video off the bat. I'm really lazy like this. I don't do any sort of post-production stuff, as you all know. I don't do any checking this, checking that. I just do it. If it's bad, I'll just scrap the video and do the video another time. So yeah, buying new watches versus used watches. On this one, I think let's get the elephant out of the room. And the elephant being certain watches like AP, Rolex, Patek, which you cannot buy from the AD anyway. So you have to go grey, and that's your only option. Whether you see that as a used watch or not a used watch, I don't know. Some people do because they don't have the name on the card. Technically, you can buy new watches which are just in the grey marketplace, and it's a brand new watch. So I'm just going to put that to one side because I don't think it kind of qualifies for buying new versus buying used. Now, many years ago when I got into watches, I looked down on buying a used watch. I really did. I thought, well, why buying used? Buy the new thing yourself, you know, the metal and you forged that first bond when you buy it and whatnot. You know, the usual BS that you tell yourself. I really did, you know, when I bought my first kind of luxury watch, my Breitling Seawolf Avenger, then the Hulk, and then, you know, other watches after Rolex, other Rolexes after that. It was always new, but that's because you could get it. But when it got to the point where I could not buy them anymore from the shop, I started exploring options which would kind of satisfy that itch, tickle that itch, scratch that itch, and that was, well, I've never had a pre-ceramic, or I've never had an early 2000s Rolex, or I've never had a 90s Rolex. And I was curious because I was pretty much locked out of getting what I wanted. So you're forced to do two things. One thing is to look at alternatives in the used market, and the other thing is to look at other brands, other watches completely, alternate options. And that's kind of what opened me up into the used watch market. And to be honest, it really desensitized me from buying a used watch. You know, I wouldn't classify buying a used watch like buying a used car, for example. A car has so many moving things. It's a machine at the end of the day. And it will start to break down, seals will start to go, you'll have to do engine drops, etc., depending on the sort of car that you have. Sorry, that's my kid squealing in the background. Yeah, she's excited. And now, I recently bought this Omega Seamaster 300 used. It was in perfect condition, but it was used. The guy who had it before me, he really looked after the watch. There's not a single mark on it. You know, the AR coating is perfect on it. And I had no issues going used. I was considering this Omega to buy brand new in the shop, on the rubber only, and then I saved myself money buying it used from someone who already had the deployment clasp rubber and the bracelet, and I saved myself a significant amount of money. I mean, I probably saved myself 10-15%. And my watch journey to date has it's had a lot of watches come and go. So I've learned that, to be honest with you, in order for it to be a realistic hobby, buying everything brand new just to check it out, it doesn't really make economic sense. So I think it's just one of those things where you have to get on the train of, being a watch enthusiast, see what you like during the first stops of that train, and eventually you realize what makes most sense, what doesn't make most sense, what you can deal with and what you can't deal with. There are certain watches out there which I would probably want to buy new. I say that. I really would want them to be new. I guess, I was going to say lower priced watches, but I bought this and this is relatively lower priced. But then again, you know what? This isn't a low priced watch. I think a low priced watch is something like a Longines, like the military heritage edition. The Longines is really, really nice. I think it's a nice looking watch. Then you've got, you've got Hamiltons, you've got Seikos, you've got the Tissot's, you've got the, like the PRX, etc. I think when you're down that end of the spectrum of watch collecting, I just think buying new, honestly speaking, I don't think I'd ever buy a used Seiko. I considered buying a used Seiko Captain Willard. I was having conversations with someone, and then I just backed out of it. It wasn't enough of a watch for me to even spend used money on. So yeah, I mean, some people have a thing inside them. They like to be the first. It's like a weird one, isn't it? It's like when you're with a woman, right, who's, I don't know, slept with too many men. Does it bother some men? It bothers some men. Some men don't care. Some men see it as a benefit because they'll get advantages elsewhere. So it's a really personal thing. But like I say, 10 years ago when I got into watch collecting, I would not have bought a used watch, really. I would not have bought a used watch. As the years went on, I was open to the idea of getting used watches because of my experience in owning them and seeing that if you get one that's a really good example and you save yourself quite a few dollars, there's not really much downside. In fact, there's a lot of upside. Yes, you are being relatively frugal, but at the same time, you're getting exposure to a bigger market of your illness, which is watches. You're getting, more options for your money. So that was kind of really what I wanted to touch on with this short video, because it was just such a great question. And how have I gone around finding watches, used watches, for example? I mean, new watches, you know how you find used watches, either in the dealer or grey market. But used watches, I go on the forums, I go on the local marketplace where I am in the Middle East, have a chat with people, meet them, have a coffee, they bring the watch. Even when I've sold a watch, I've sold used watches and people meet me, we have a chat. It's important to have that conversation with someone because there are certain risks with buying used watches. I know I have friends who've bought used watches and they've bought like a fake Daytona. They spent £25,000 on a fake Daytona. When they walked me through, or they talked me through the process of how they bought the watch, it was literally red flag central, red flag, red flag, red flag. I think once you're comfortable buying a used watch and you know what to look for, it's actually quite exciting because not only are you saving a heap of cash, you're getting access to watches which you would otherwise not be buying at the AD. And it's relatively fun. It does, to an extent, fuel the obsession of watch collecting, because then you think, oh, well, I can get this, I can get that, I can swap that. But that's pretty cool. I think it's a really exciting territory of watch ownership, is buying and selling used watches. There are certain things you want to check. You know, I'm not going to go into this because there are other channels which will advise you on how to buy a used watch, you know, box, papers, all that funky stuff, and movement and damage and polishing, not polishing, blah, blah, blah. But I was thinking the other day, and, you know, sometimes when you do certain things in the watch world, like buy a used watch or buy a certain type of watch, I think you need to have gone through the journey to a certain extent. And I'm not going to bring this up in this video much, but what I was going to say was, I would never have considered an Omega, for example, many years ago. And many people don't consider Omegas because everyone has this milestone watch of Rolex in their mind. But once you've achieved that milestone watch, that's when you can start exploring the other watches which you would have probably not included in your, let me mute this. That's when you can start including other watches which you otherwise may not have bought. You might jump straight from Breitling to Rolex like me. And then after you've had the Rolex experience, which used to be nice, it used to be nice. Then once you've had it and you got tired of it, that's when you can backtrack a bit and arguably go for an Omega, which is maybe arguably a lesser watch to some people. But like I say, that's all I wanted to get out today, guys. New versus used watches. I caveat, this is all, again, my journey. It's not what I think is right or wrong, but I think if certain people watch the certain videos, then they'll get an insight into what someone else's path and journey was, and what were the deciding points in their journey that made them consider a used versus a new watch. Again, forget the Rolex unobtainium stuff, the AP unobtainium stuff, the Pateks and the VCs and all that. Just a general black and white question, new versus used. And let me know your thoughts, guys, in the comment section on buying new versus used. I have a suspicion that a lot of people would have started into the new stuff, and then they would have slowly diverted into the used stuff. And that's probably where the rabbit hole gets even deeper, is getting into the used stuff. But yeah, I look forward to reading some of your comments, guys. And hopefully this mic has worked out. This time I went for this kind of lapel type mic, and I'm conscious it's really close to my mouth, so I'm probably going to be yelling when I play this back. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. I'll speak soon. Bye.